In the rolling hills of southwest England, rivers are being given space to flow more naturally again. More wetlands are returning. This is a story of mud, data, and a new kind of capital. By experimenting with remote sensing data, the EU-funded BioCapital project explores how measurable gains in biodiversity can become recognized and tradable assets. We meet Rachel. Most days, you'll find her inspecting and restoring river streams, but today, we begin in her Cornwall office, where the work of restoring rivers meets the challenge of proving that nature's recovery is valuable.
We are currently in the UK or in the southwest of England doing some site visits to look at previous work that Westcountry Rivers Trust has delivered through various other projects. So we've been out with Harold, who's been taking some grid references and lots of pictures to go away and assess the kind of Google, the sort of the satellite imagery elements of the project and see what can be done with some of the UK sites.
Behind Rachel's fieldwork stands an environmental charity that has been safeguarding rivers for decades. For Lawrence, the charity's chief executive, BioCapital is a chance to align local restoration efforts with broader environmental goals.
So the BioCapital project will allow us to understand not only the benefits of protecting the river and giving it space for nature, but it will also allow us to market that specifically with things like biodiversity net gain, linked to developers who have to account for any degradation in the land when they develop properties. And have to increase the biodiversity by 10%.
But before biodiversity uplift can be valued, it needs to be proven. That's where Harold comes in, turning muddy boots into traceable data from above. Alongside Rachel, he's assessing a small intervention site on the edge of Dartmoor National Park.
So this is kind of a small created wetland. There's a couple of different things that we've done, a couple of interventions that we've put in place. So the first one, at the sort of top end of the wetland, sort of top end of the slope, we've put in sort of a large bund using logs and twigs and things like that, and we've kind of scraped an area out to divert some of the watercourse into this area deliberately, before it then releases back into the stream.
Harold's task today is to ground what satellites might see. By tracing the wetland's edge on foot, he creates a ground truth map.
So what I did is I just circle around and walk all around the wetland spot. So when I will be back, I will be able to look on the satellite imagery and see if I can see something at 10 meters per pixel resolution.
Later, back at his computer, Harold examines whether these small, muddy interventions can leave a visible signature, detectable from satellites orbiting 500 kilometers above.
So if we are able to see everything we would like to see in the images, we should be able to see the impact, the direct impact of the actions that are managed here in terms of vegetation change. So if you create a pond and then there is a wetland that start to grow there, we can see a change in vegetation.
But not all wetlands are this cooperative. An hour's drive from Tavistock lies Tresay's Geological Nature Reserve, a dense, hidden wetland where satellites struggle to see.
For the second site, which is a very small site with very dense vegetation, we may probably face the limitation of remote sensing as we use it in the context of the project, which is we don't have the spatial resolution to really see all those small objects. And we have especially a lot of species that grow below the trees. So for this second site, it's really hard to say we will see something with remote sensing and we will be able to provide an indicator that's meaningful.
The Dartmoor wetlands and Tresay's are just two examples in a broader landscape where riverland restoration is gaining momentum. Our focus shifts to Duchy College in Stoke Climsland, a specialist agricultural and environmental campus training the next generation of land managers and conservationists. As a key stakeholder, Duchy College could play a pivotal role in scaling up the results of BioCapital. Here, restoration is anything but subtle. Ponds and engineered bunds have been sculpted into the land to slow and hold water. Landscape architect Gemma walks us through the latest interventions.
Standing water is incredibly important for biodiversity. There are freshwater springs and streams, the one just over the side of the wall, but the one on this side was only here sort of certain times of the year. So by holding on to that water, we have created a pond that's there most of the year. Sometime in the year, all 3 or 4 ponds will fill up. So that standing water is there. It's an environment for freshwater invertebrates, the associated life that will sort of prey upon those invertebrates. We've seen mallards here. So yeah, it's a great extra additional habitat.
For Harold, Duchy College is a living laboratory situated right within his region of interest. Its patchwork of fields, hedgerows, and water interventions forms a complex landscape, an ideal testing ground for exploring how well remote sensing can detect ecological change.
So here the landscape is more complex, more fragmented, so we have a lot of small fields with edges around, a lot of vegetation. And the goal of the visit is also to understand and see more practically, being there, how it looks like. Because when we have to interpret and process the images, we have to understand what we see, even if the resolution doesn't allow us to see all the complexity of the landscape and all the small trees, all those small fields so easily.
One key factor is that change in nature is rarely abrupt. Months, sometimes years, must pass before shifts in vegetation become visible. From space, we can track these changes, fields turning green, browning, and recovering, but detail depends on the satellite. By processing these images into time series, researchers can monitor indicators such as biomass or vegetation health, revealing seasonal peaks and lows that reflect the rhythms and disruptions of the landscape. To scale restoration, data must ultimately translate into value. That's the principle behind biodiversity net gain, and at Duchy College, these numbers are beginning to take shape. Along just one of many river corridors, around 3.3 biodiversity units could soon become part of a tradable market. Yet for practitioners like Rachel, one challenge remains: how can restoration scale when monitoring is still costly and fragmented?
Monitoring biodiversity uplift generally is something that is quite difficult to do. It tends to be the part of projects that is underfunded.
This is where biocapital begins. If we can measure nature's recovery through remote sensing, we can start to value it accurately and affordably. That's the project's ambition, here in Devon's wetlands and far beyond.